And elsewhere, just a day after the Catholic Church declared it will not allow its functions to be used as political forums, the rule has been broken in Nyeri.
Politicians at a Harambee in Nyeri, where Bishop Peter Kairo was in attendance, hailed the church for banning politics in church, but went ahead to politics all the same, with the bishop watching.
Kanisa ni pahali takatifu, na wakati mwingine wale wanasiasa, manake Kaninikega si mwanasiasa, Kaninikega ni kiongozi. Wale wanasiasa wakati mwingine wanaleta maneno ya siasa kwa kanisa, na ni pahali ambapo ni takatifu. Tunajua kuko na changamoto hapa na pale za ufisadi, lakini mengi inaonekana ni uongo, kuiharibia serikali sifa, ili ikifika 2017 Wakenya muambiwe serikali ya Jubilee haijafanya kazi. Unaweza kula chapati kama imepikwa pande moja, ukikula tumbo itauma. Sasa chapati wale wakule kwa Kieni, unajua chapati ya Kieni imeiva pande moja, ni kupidiwa pande hii nyingine. 2017 Kaninikega aendelee wakiwa na mheshimiwa rais, hii miradi yote tumalize. Hiyo kweli ni siasa? Hapana, manake ni maendeleo.
And Bishop Anthony Muheri of the Catholic Diocese of Kitui is now with me. Hiyo ni siasa?
I think one of the things we have to put in context is first that this was done yesterday,
right?
The statement of the bishops. And the idea is first and foremost to understand it is the church houses of worship. That's the first thing that we are saying. The houses of worship are sacred. We want to gain the sacred space back. So we don't want anyone to stand in front of the congregation and take advantage of the congregation in order to further their own political plans or development of their career, political. But on the other hand, it is not just about politicians, it's about anything that is not right. So when you hear this, obviously my first reaction is, as in all laws and guidelines, they take time to implement. You need, normally we speak about promulgation. You need a little of time, because obviously this was most probably planned. But again, we want to say, that doesn't mean that the church says we don't participate in Harambees. Harambees are public. So if there is a Harambee in one of the schools that I am involved in, I will attend. But we really want to send a message to the politicians and say, really, for places where people have gathered for a sacred reason, for a reason that is of prayer and for godly reasons, let's not now smudge it to the mud of politics, and especially bad politics.
How can bishops now turn around and say, no, let's not have politicians speak at places of worship, when it is the bishops, the religious leaders, that allowed them that position of influence in the first place? When a politician comes to church, then the priest acknowledges them. They sit at the front. Then when before you finish mass, you invite them to come and kuja usalimie wananchi.
Precisely in the guidelines that the bishops have said, indicate that that should not happen. The politicians are also Christians. They have every right to come to our places of worship. Our leaders, we do give them their respect. When they come, we'll show them respect. But we do not make them more Christians than others who are there. We won't ask a Christian to stand up so that this leader may have a seat. I think we have to acknowledge that. But nevertheless, when we know that a leader normally comes and sits, to say that so-and-so is with us may be said, it's not necessary. I think it's good to remember when the Pope was here, it was very, very clear that the leaders, even our national leaders, did not engage in any speeches or any kind of discourse, political, in all those functions. This is the same kind of mind that we must gain the sacred space. So we, as leaders, will not invite the political leaders to come and either greet or address. That is what the bishops have said.
Are you saying also that you will not give the politicians positions of prominence, seats of prominence at the front of the church?
That this bishop's statement did not say. Of course, there's a lot of epikeia, we say, a lot of room to acknowledge. On one hand, we respect the leaders. So, but the respect does not mean that we are going to give them spaces where other people should be. No, but while doing that respect, we realize before God we are all equal. whether you are in this position or the other position, we are all equal.
So they won't have the position of almost like a chief Christian.
Well, no, in principle they are not. They are not more baptized than you are or I am. So they will come over there. We will acknowledge them as our leaders, but the congregation, the church, the space, the pulpit is not a place where we will invite them to then come and diverge political views. And especially let us realize that we have seen is not only, we say this as a Catholic Church, we haven't had as bad exchanges as in other places.
Okay.
But we know there are places where indeed in that podium, certain very ungodly things have been said to one another, and insults. So it's a way of trying to tame and bring sanity to what the politicians right now are entering into, a wave of, I would say, laws of direction.
You talked about Harambee earlier. Harambee is another place where the church indulges the politicians. And that's why they probably get this position of influence and prominence, because they will give some money to support some, often church projects, by the way.
That is also something that we are really considering. And in fact, coming approach of the general elections, more and you see less and less of this amongst, at least in the Catholic churches.
Why do churches accept money from tainted politicians?
It is true that if I knew you had money that is tainted, I won't take it from you. But it is also very difficult for me to put a pH indicator onto your money and say, oh, this money is tainted, oh, this money came from. So we don't want to be judges, nor God before people. But we probe the conscience of the person contributing, and we tell you, if Larry, you're given to me, remember, this is God's place. Don't bring me tainted money. But if you want to give a little bit to help whatever cause, you're very welcome. But not for show and not for praise, but for God. And I think that's a culture we have to get, because right now we're in a culture of greed. People must learn giving is what really makes you grow, not having. So we want to have a lot, but we want also to make a lot of praise about the little we give.
Okay.
So I think we accept that there are good causes, and there are people who are rich who help. But they will many times even help quietly. What we are saying is, yes, corrupt money should not be used to do things that are godly. And it's a conscience of me who is given that has to direct me.
That culture of greed you talked about, the flip side of that is also it has led to corruption, right?
Yes,
and
indeed.
politicians obviously are the stars in that corruption Olympics. How come in a country of 80% Christianity that people are so corrupt?
That is a question that we can always ask, because all of us, 100%, not 80%, have got what we call original sin. I mean, all of us have a tendency, you and I have got a tendency to do ill. We are capable of any evil that any other person is. So we always tend to certain ills. And that is why the central stage of trying to keep the moral conscience of the people, trying to really make the people grow in values. And that's why the church has a big role, and not only the church, our education system and the system of modeling and mentoring of our young people. So what happens when 82% are seemingly corrupt? I would say it's a sign, on one hand, that less and less we are going and veering away from God and therefore from values. But again, we may need to do a little more than just saying we are wrong. We have to call the people back.
Okay.
And I think we have seen the media, the commerce of lottery, of getting money for free. And I think there is that idea that we are no longer asking our parents, our brothers, our sisters, where did you get the money? How did you get so rich in a go? I think it's a moment to start asking serious questions and probing ourselves, not pointing other questions or other fingers to other people, but saying, what I have, I must get it right. And
all right.
If it's little, thank God. But at least, if I have a lot, let me also give a lot. So the corruption is a thing that the bishops address very, very seriously. Okay. And we have said we are ready to actually host a forum whereby we, all the people, government, non-government, private sector, can sit around and say, what is this monster that has come to us? Why this ill?
And the culture of corruption.
Why the culture of corruption,
Okay.
and the cause, which is a culture of greed. So not just to heal the pimples of chicken pox, but to go down and find out where is the cause of this illness that we can see now the results in all what we say.
Bishop, thank you so much for being here tonight. We
Thank
appreciate
you
your
too, Larry.
insights and your wisdom.